Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Ball and welcome to another episode of the Wellness Academy podcast. On our show here at the Wellness Academy, it is my job to distill all things wellness and attempt to break down from all our different coaches, experts and guests their wisdom and knowledge so that you can apply it to your own life. Today's guest is a gentleman named Richard Enion. Rich is an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur, a drummer, a tea drinker, and with just a couple of interesting backstories, his Dragon's Den successes and world travel made for a fantastic podcast amongst much, much more. He started out the podcast with a great experience for me personally. He shared with me a traditional tea ceremony where he served me Sheng Pu'er tea. Sheng Pu'er tea is a Chinese tea that grew on 200 plus year old trees in Pu'er, China. It's clean as a whistle, no agrochemicals used, and is known as an uplifting tea, which is fairly stimulating and cooling in nature. And Rich treated me to its taste, its benefits and health-giving properties in a more traditional tea meditation. Rich was a very, very enjoyable guest. The whole experience was fantastic. It was really informative. I learned a lot and really been one of the different highlights so far of the podcasting experience for me here on the Wellness Academy podcast. So I hope you guys really, really enjoy. You can find more information about Rich, including his enriched superfoods supplement business, in the show notes below. Really hope you guys enjoy this, and if you do, if you can take a moment to just like and subscribe the video if you're on YouTube, or give us a review and a subscription to any of the podcast channels that you're listening on. Once again, I hope you guys enjoy, and see you guys on the next one. Welcome to another episode of the Wellness Academy podcast. Dan here with our guest today is Richard Enion from, amongst other things, Enriched Superfoods. Rich, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Dan, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. For those of you guys that aren't watching, because I am attempting to record this live at the very least, but if you're just listening to us, Rich has just made us, give the listeners an idea of what you've just poured us, Rich.
Right, we are drinking a Sheng Pu'er tea.
Okay.
Which means a green or raw Pu'er tea.
Okay.
Pu'er being a region in China, and
that's where the name from the tea comes from.
Yeah.
Pu'er is a region in China.
Exactly.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Right. It's the depth and the world of tea, like Camellia sinensis, the tea leaf is so fascinating. So fascinating. All the way from, like in England, we drink red tea or black tea. Well, from my learning and experience, it's red tea that we drink, not black tea.
Okay.
Black tea is a whole other thing that has, when we think about tea as what it was originally medicine.
Yeah.
Has a whole different world to red tea. So, yeah.
Okay.
And we're drinking a Sheng Pu'er, which.
And is that a black tea?
It's a Pu'er tea.
Okay, so Pu'er is.
Yes.
Okay.
So you got green tea, red tea, yellow tea, black tea, white tea, oolong and Pu'er.
Oh wow!
They're the 7 categories, quote unquote, of Camellia sinensis, and some will change that. They'll have like maybe, I think some say 8 categories, but I like that 7 works well for me, and I like the number 7. But yeah, so this is the Sheng Pu'er, meaning a green Pu'er tea. It's got a fair amount of caffeine in it. Probably not like a coffee, anything like that. It's uplifting in its energy, in that imagine a food that grows downwards into the ground, like a carrot or a potato or a
root vegetable.
Root.
Yeah.
So their physicality on this planet moves downwards, and I mean, tea leaves are on trees. The trees are growing upwards, but even within the subtleties of the food that is growing upwards, it can have different movements within the body, or how it moves the chi of the body. And Sheng Pu'er being one that is an uplifting tea. Said very coarsely.
So, rather than kind of going through that warren of conversation, let's start a little bit earlier. So you and I met not too long ago at a local CrossFit competition here in the UK, in Cheltenham.
Cheltenham CrossFit.
Turned out that we probably saw each other at school like 20-ish years ago.
Yep.
So you were school friends with a guy who I knew, not super well, but very least by name, back when I was growing up in my small village in Hatton.
Yeah.
Went to the same school. You were in Cheltenham, which is about an hour and 45 minutes from where we both live.
Yeah.
But then my parents came to support me. You knew my dad because you see him at the gym. So
In
very
Burton.
strange. In Burton, so very strange. And we sort of got chatting a little bit, and you were there promoting your current kind of passion and business.
Yep.
Rich Superfoods, selling the
organic sourced plant-based protein shakes.
powders. Yeah. But this isn't...
And the medicinal mushrooms.
And the medicinal mushrooms. But you had an entire life before this, obviously. This isn't what you've been doing from moment one.
No.
But kind of post going to Australia, give us an idea of, how you got to where you are now doing what you're doing, but also what you did before. Because it's a cool story what you did before, isn't it?
It's been I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the story so far. Like I think a lot of people that are into fitness, like into it and into food, something has often happened to trigger that.
Yeah.
And mine was being an obese kid at school. Yeah. So I actually used to carry my backpack around at school all through secondary school as much as possible to cover as much of my body as I could. Oh, wow. And I remember that, I remember that recently. I was like, oh yeah, I used to do that. Because I just wanted to cover my back and my...
And again, for people who aren't watching, who are listening, Rich is in good shape.
Oh.
He embodies the stereotypical picture of a chap who's into fitness and sells organic sourced, protein powders and such. Like, I remember looking, I see why he sells that now.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a contrast. It wasn't like, really? Like, he's selling that stuff? But okay. So carry on.
Good clarification. Yeah. And so I wanted to figure it out. Like I remember thinking, even at 13, 14 years old, I was like, I got to figure out how to be healthy and to be comfortable and to spill tea everywhere. To be also to be energized, not to walk between class and be out of breath and a bit sweaty. Like to be living like a really good, energized life where it's comfortable.
And this was on your mind at
13, 14 years old.
Okay.
And it was also linking to women. Like at that age, I'm like, ooh, I want to cuddle naked with a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So from there, I started to read all the magazines. I won't name them, but the magazines, and I started running all the time. I was running 4 or 5 miles a day, because I thought, you know what, if I create if I just eat less and go running all the time, then I'll get healthy.
How did that work out for you, 14, 15?
Yeah, I mean, it...
Because at that age, you would assume it did work out quite well in some contexts. Not perhaps overall wellness, but at least from a physical perspective, there would be some improvements at that age, I'm guessing.
Bang on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From a physical point of view, my body completely changed over a few years. It was GCSEs to sixth form when people didn't recognise me.
Yeah.
And I went from 38 waist trousers to 31, 32.
At 14, 15, you were in a 38 waist?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's
I remember.
good work.
Thank you, yeah. It was impressive to get to that size.
Yeah, and then the other way around.
Yeah. And I remember being in a shop buying a pair of trousers, and the woman came out and said, "These are the biggest ones. We don't get any bigger than this."
Oh wow!
And that was another little moment, because I remember vividly that. But yeah, so got skinny. Kind of my abs were showing, which because of the magazines that had infiltrated my brain, that's what I thought I needed to do. So I thought I'd kind of won. I was like, yeah, that works. But I was a little bit moody. I wasn't particularly balanced. I wasn't really aware of this at the time. I was just in it, still running all the time. And what I'd probably done is created quite a hormone imbalance. Probably malnourished myself by only eating very limited diet. and but I'd changed my body, so I was like, kind of like, yes, awesome in one way. Then, what happened after that? The years could become a little bit blurred of what happened when in the sequences, but at some point I had a malignant tumour. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so through lack of peace of mind and probably through hormone imbalance during that period, I got in my shoulder a tumour. You can see the scar actually. It's quite a...
I'll trust you.
Yeah, well actually it's not, I mean it's not a crazy scar, but
oh wow, okay. Yeah.
And so like, and that was early 20s, and I've happily like blurred that time. Like it just doesn't really. It happened, and here I am. And so when that happened, I remember laying on the hospital bed thinking, all right, I've probably got something wrong here. Like I thought I was healthy, thought I was fit, but something had obviously tweaked out of balance for me during that experience. And then went on a next level of like figuring out fitness and health again from a deeper perspective. So
you were into all this whilst you did the other business.
Yes. At that point, I moved to the Caribbean, as you do.
You were how old?
20. I may have been like 21.
And you're how old now?
37 yesterday.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, mate. Yeah.
So hang on, so you mentioned of course that you went to Australia after you left sixth form.
Yep.
So sixth form, for American listeners, we are 18 when we leave sixth form.
18, yeah.
You went to Australia. You came back after not a significant length of time. Did you come back to the UK?
Yeah, 4.5 months in Oz, came back to the UK.
Stayed here until 21-ish.
Did a degree in business information systems.
Right. And then went to the Caribbean.
Part of that degree did an exchange in Australia again, so went back to Oz.
Wow.
After doing that chunk of time, I nipped into... my connecting flight was into Malaysia to come back to the UK, but what I had this brilliant idea, an impulse if you like, was to stay in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So I changed my flight to give me a 6-week chunk of time in Southeast Asia. Got a quote-unquote luxury bus from Kuala Lumpur to Bangkok with the aim of going to Phuket. And by the time the bus was luxury for the first 2 hours. I got a quilt and like I could lay back. 2 hours later, it was a smaller bus.
Oh,
by the time I got to Phuket, I was on the back of a scooter.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Yeah.
Okay, so Malaysia, then home.
Then
the malignant tumour.
Then the malignant tumour at some point in there.
And then Caribbean.
And then the Caribbean, yeah.
Whereabouts in the Caribbean did you go?
Flew to St. Lucia because I could get a return ticket for like 400 quid.
Wow.
And I was going to go with another friend to the Galapagos, which I haven't done to this day, but often with flights I'll get it all lined up and then book it the next day, give myself like a window of time to like let something change. On that window of time, I think it was a flight to Quito, then to the Galapagos. The flight, it went. I hadn't reserved it, there was no more flights. So I basically got the right feeling to go, you know what, I'll leave it. Googled a little bit, booked a flight to St. Lucia with the intention of getting to South America, particularly or Central America. I had Costa Rica on my mind. And ended up, you know how in life sometimes you just things just kind of work out? And so that was what was happening right there. I flew to St. Lucia, met a fleet of yachts coming on a cruise with a company called World Cruising Club, who are amazing, because I went to the marina and started saying, hey, does anyone have any random work, any labour need doing? I'm really bad, I can't remember her name. This lady said, oh, there's this photographer, Tim, who always needs help here. Got introduced to Tim, ended up working with Tim there. Tim happened to be going around the Caribbean taking photos, so I got his boat down to Bequia. On the way to Bequia, we stopped off at San Martin, because he wanted to fuel up and get stuck up. I met a band in St. Martin. Again, total impulses of went to the surf shop called Soul Seeker Surf, chatted with an awesome dude called Jeff, left the shop, had the feeling of maybe he knows a band that are looking for a drummer, because I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
Went back in and he's like, actually, yeah. the band were out back. I chatted with them and ended up staying with them for 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah, good guys, good experiences.
Okay.
At the end of that, another friend, David House.
Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't ring a bell, but yeah.
Sorry, Dave. Tells me about this great business he's set up called the Events House.
Okay.
And kind of like half in kind of implied, come back, do some work for us, like get on with this. And another band at the time had just supported Bon Jovi and they were looking for a new drummer. So I was like, you know what, this is a good time to go back to England. Went back to England, and in the midst of all that, find out about this industry, team building, and specifically team building using drumming.
Okay.
And
so before you carry on about that, because
Yeah.
I sort of know where you're going to go with this a little bit.
Awesome.
How does drumming work with team building? Because like my brain doesn't go, oh yeah, of course, like it does with team building at a fitness retreat type thing. And my brain connects those two together a little bit more, or you know, the stereotypical. I'm sure there's a thing where they're supposed to build something with Lego.
Yeah, there'll be something
That's
like
like
that.
a team building thing. I'm sure I've heard of before.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't go, oh, of course, yeah, team building with drumming. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can understand why you might think that. And it's good for me to hear you not understanding that, because that means there are other people that don't get it yet too. Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, drumming's been used traditionally for thousands of years to bring communities, bring groups of people together, to clear the mind, to help with decision making.
Okay.
So, tribe have a situation going on. Do we stay? Do we go? Let's have a massive drum, clear the mind, dance a load, and then see how we feel and make an intuitive decision based on the best information that we've got. So clear the mind, connect the community.
Okay.
Done. That's it. It's so simple. And it works every time. Yeah.
Okay. So, cool. That's why drumming works.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Okay. Back to England, set up a drumming team building business with a couple of awesome humans, and we take that on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, like, intuition, impulses, feelings, thoughts, whatever it is, like, I've had a pretty good way of navigating through feeling. Ended up being in Nottingham, chatted to someone who said, hey, you should go speak to this guy at the university because blah 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 blah. I don't know what the content was. I ended up being there in the waiting room, looking to my right, seeing a poster saying, Dragon's Den, think you've got it, call this number. I was like, oh yeah, that feels good, I'll do that. So yeah, literally took the number, phoned them that night, went through the application process, which was really intense, like proper intense. Get a no after going over to Manchester with all this amazing, beautiful people that I was drumming with at the time. We went over to Manchester, did an audition. They said, yes, you're in. Days before the actual shoot, they said, we can't fit you in. There's not enough time to fit you in the schedule. Forget it. Right? I get a feeling of like, I don't really want to forget it. Like, there's so much gone into this, and it just seems right to get on that show and do it. And for whatever reason. Probably because it was an investment TV show for my business.
Yeah.
Phone them every single day from that call, continuously until they called me back. Hey, we can do this, we can change this, we can make this a little bit shorter. You can fit us in, we'll figure it out. Come on, we'll figure it out. Wrote them an email. I probably got the email somewhere. Here are the 15 ways that we can actually make this pitch happen. And after a week of hounding them, I get the phone call, we found you a slot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did the show, successful pitch, very intense in there. Like, it started off very intense.
I never really watched it. My main connection with Dragon's Den is more along the lines of Michael McIntyre taking the mickey out of it on his stand-up shows, where he like jokes about the way that they would say, I'm out, like this or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Almost Scottish accent.
I tried. Sorry, everybody from Scotland. So, how many dragons were there, and who were they at the time when you went?
5, and it was Deborah, Peter, Duncan, Theo, and James Kahn.
Okay, and did you get, what was the outcome?
Yeah, we got a deal.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter and Theo shook on it. They offered us a contract.
As in shook with you, or shook
Sorry, yeah, they had a handshake. Sorry, yeah, my brain kind of flicks through all that stuff too.
So he shook hands with you, either on screen or off screen?
On screen, we did the pitch.
Yeah.
So the pitch is like we did a performance, we got them drumming, they loved it.
Okay.
I was nervous as hell before, but as soon as I started speaking, totally fine, because it's it's just the apprehension.
Yeah.
Did all that in the negotiation. It was fine because firstly, we didn't really know what we were doing in the negotiation. Like, we ended up with 40% of the company going to them for 50 grand. 50 grand's a nice chunk of money, 40% is a huge amount of the business. So, in the pitch, it was fine because we weren't trying to hide anything. It was good business, turned over this amount in this many months. These were our clients, which was some of the biggest companies on the planet. So all that was
you already had clients that were big companies before you went on Dragon's Den.
Yeah, we'd already done RBS, Unilever, Citibank. City took us to Athens for an event. Yeah, it was we were in and on. It was awesome, and then so we shook on the deal on the show and got the contract, but the contract wasn't something that I wanted to sign. It wasn't right or wrong. It just wasn't agreeable to the way. Either of us really wanted to go forward. So we just said thank you very much. We had 6 million people see us on the show, so that equated to a significant amount of business anyway. They were totally cool, no worries. They're like, yeah, no worries, just sign this form that says whatever it said, and that was it. Yeah,
so you didn't take the money in the end?
Didn't take it. Yeah, didn't need it and didn't want it.
Okay.
Yeah, in a way, it was I kind of felt like I'd kept my freedom.
Okay.
So rather than being answerable to and having to
But 40% of the business would have been a lot.
Yeah, a big chunk. Yeah.
Okay. So. And you still do that now, right?
Yes, drummingteambuilding.co.uk. It's going very well. There's events happening. This year's been one of the best years, same as last year. This month's been quiet. I think something's happening perhaps in the economy. I don't know. It's a political thing happening.
Possibly.
But it might not even be that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's starting to pick up now for the next few months. So.
In your living room, you've got a sign, a piece of paper, Google, guest.
Ah, yeah.
Was that with Drumming Team Building? You've been to Google?
I have been to Google. Yeah, I'm not sure how much I can say. Yes, okay. I have been to Google.
Okay.
And
I drove past it in San Francisco.
Oh, awesome.
I didn't go in. But I know there's somebody who, and I say hopefully what having on the podcast, because obviously there's a lot of moving parts with trying to get people to do these kinds of things. But there is a future guest in a couple of weeks that has also been to Google recently. One of our previous guests, Richie Norton, was also at Google. So. Doesn't seem uncommon for people who I apparently get to talk to that have been to Google.
That's fascinating. There's a theme.
Except for me.
Yeah.
So from there, you're still doing that. How long has that business been going?
12 years or so.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. But then also, you found time to get on to what it is that you do now.
Yep. Which
is connected to what we just had at the start of the podcast. We're drinking our...
you can remember?
No, I can't remember the first word. Shanga Puerti.
Shung Puerti.
Shung Puerti.
Yeah.
I said to you before, I've got a limited understanding and connection with some of these. What's the word? It's not supplements, is it?
That's a good question. I never call them supplements.
But teas and coffees and mushrooms and so on and so forth.
Protein shake.
I know about. I know about. So one of the things that I always tend to do is if somebody who I follow and trust says to do something, generally speaking, I'm willing to give it a go. Like, I'm that type of personality. I don't need all of the science, facts and figures. For example, do you listen to any Rhonda Patrick?
Yes, I like Rhonda. Right. She's great.
So Rhonda Patrick said she first time I heard about her was via Tim Ferriss. She was on his blog posts rather than his podcast at the time, and it basically said, go in the sauna, there's benefits. I didn't need to research the science behind all those benefits. I'm like, okay, I'll go in the sauna.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough that one of the UK's top spa facilities is on my doorstep.
Huh.
And I pretty much paid to go there just so I can use the sauna and the plunge pool for heat shock proteins and cold therapy.
Yeah.
Do I always feel amazing when I've been? Maybe, maybe not. But is it enjoyable when I go? Hell yeah, it is. You know, if nothing else, it reminds me of the sunshine, and you feel great. I do, at least, with warmth on my body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, same person, Tim Ferriss. It talked a lot about a company called Four Sigmatic and their mushroom coffees. I think the ones I bought were chaga and lion's mane. I don't know why chaga and lion's mane are good for you. I was willing to try them. They weren't expensive.
Yeah.
But you've done a lot more research, like you know a lot more about those things and beyond, because now that's what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where to start? Why did you start this new business? How did that come about?
Good questions. I think the all of it leads to the now, right? All of it. Whatever I've gone through, the illness, the obesity, the whatever my dad went through, and there's this kind of thing within me that is like, okay, I'm going to find out a bit more about that and see if it's going to serve me. I'm going to listen to that person, and I might test something because I trust that person enough to try it. And
for the record, there are lots of things that Tim Ferriss has suggested to try that I won't try.
Okay, yeah.
Have you heard him talk about? So
that's a good caveat.
There's a medicine that is used for treating diabetes that people around the world are using for life extension purposes now. I forget what it's called. I wish I'd have really looked at that now before I'd said this to you.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm not going to track down diabetes medicine. Where would I find that, for one?
Right.
If I did find it, it's going to be, at least in this country, illegal.
Yeah.
If it's off-label use, I'm not going to do that.
No.
But for example, the Four Sigmatic coffee is worth £12 on Amazon. Why would I not try that? They tasted nice, you know. But yeah, so I wanted to add that as a caveat. So please carry on.
You know what you could have inspired there is a whole movement where diabetics are being hunted for their.
Maybe so. I don't think there's that many people listening to this podcast just yet. But maybe in the future I'll be getting blamed for it. But
you
have to do that thing where I now say I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't play one on the internet. Don't do something just because I say it. He knows more than me. Blah blah blah. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I don't think Tim's a doctor either. Nor am I.
No, he's not.
And don't do anything because I say it.
So
the mushrooms are fascinating. I got into it I moved to LA at some point within all of this.
How long were you in LA for?
On and off for 4 or so years.
Whereabouts did you live?
Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Venice Beach, Marina Del Rey area. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was nice.
Did you still do the drumming while you were there?
Yeah.
So how did that work? I know we're going off tangent.
I know
now.
tangents. It's like, how does business work?
You were in LA. Did you come home to do the drumming events, or did you end up doing ones in LA and around that area?
No, they still did and do exist all in the UK.
Right, okay.
Through
just meant more travel then.
No, through natural progress of life and business, there are my guys that run the events.
Okay.
So I can be anywhere in the world, run the marketing.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're happening. But
cool.
When I'm in the UK, I get to as many as possible. There's one coming up in a few days, and I don't have to go.
But you're excited.
I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I feel so privileged to be able to do that. At the beginning of one of the events, sometimes we'll do different talks and team. What's the word? It was a small group, so they wanted to get them talking, and that was part of the brief. And within it, they kind of put the questions back on us. And one of them is about doing what you love, and what would it be, or what was the thing when you were a kid you wanted to do? Well, I started playing drums at 12, so it was easy for me to say, well, this is pretty close to anything I ever wanted to do, was to be paid for playing drums with people. They're awesome. Yeah, there's the rock star kind of world within it as well, which may come later as well, I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me having spoken to you for this long.
Right.
We'll carry on.
So yeah, I'm in LA, and I don't really drink alcohol. It's not a 1 and 0, I never drink alcohol. Boom. I really, really enjoyed being in Argentina, drinking a glass of wine at the vineyard. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
This year, I reckon I've consumed 2 brandies. Bearing in mind it's the 7th of November. 2 brandies, maybe a bottle of wine.
So you prefer to drink if it's worth drinking. You don't do getting drunk.
I don't do getting drunk.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I do not like being drunk.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that I have to drink to have a good time.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that something outside of me that I need it to get into a state that I can't get in without it. I don't like spending money on alcohol.
Right.
I may as well take it and put it in the loo and flush it down.
Yeah.
You know.
And you don't get all the pain of it.
But at the same time, hangovers were revolting. But then at the same time, if something tastes nice, there's a spirit called Amarula.
Okay.
Which I discovered in South Africa earlier this year. It's like their version of Bailey's.
Oh.
And they happened to be serving that on the Virgin flight I took out to San Francisco and back.
Yeah.
So I had 1 glass.
Nice.
So I probably drank more than you, but I don't do being drunk.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't fuss me.
It's fascinating. And I'm finding more and more people are kind of playing with that. Like perhaps not like you and me, like just not getting drunk, but like thinking, actually, when those beverages that we don't know what actually is in them really, or how they've been processed and what was happening to the land before and all that goes into my body, and I feel like there seems to be a shift of consciousness on that, basically. It's fascinating.
Okay.
So yeah, not being in the party scene in LA and not really like drinking or seeking out that kind of world, I both naturally and kind of like pushing wise found tea and a really beautiful life-enhancing tea community there.
Oh, wow.
And the tweets probably still exist, but I remember writing, where's the hashtag tea in LA? Where's the good hashtag tea in Venice Beach? Nothing ever came of that. Like, no one ever responded to those, nothing ever happened. But perhaps with that intention, through a series of events, I end up sitting in a tea ceremony in a really beautiful house with really like loving, awesome humans being served the most amazing tea. In fact, one of the first teas I drank was this one, actually, with those guys.
Oh, cool.
A Champoer. And then from there, in Santa Monica, there's a really well-known school of Chinese medicine. I think it's called Yosan. And so people from all around the world will go to that school to study Chinese medicine.
Okay.
That is in the vicinity. I was actually a few blocks from where I was living. In the Chinese medicine, China is obviously very linked into tea and teas. So it just so happened that some of the students there were also part of the tea community, who are now really deep friends and like just good humans. I ended up living with them a little bit whilst I was out there, being exposed to acupuncture, mushrooms, herbs, teas, alternative
And we
medicines.
should say, just because I know how easy it is sometimes for the, shall we say, modern indoctrinations is perhaps the wrong word, but like even I, who know when you're saying mushrooms, you don't mean mushrooms.
Yeah, I don't mean psilocybin.
Yeah, but I think there probably is a possibility at least one person listening to go in, do they mean mushrooms? I say mushrooms. We don't mean psilocybin. We don't mean hallucinogenics. We don't mean any of that kind of thing. We mean actual plants, plant-based mushrooms, the ones that you can take. They don't have adverse side effects. You're not going to be addicted to them. It's not going to cause you a psychotic break. They're just positive for the human body, right?
Totally legal, with thousands of years' use and decades of Western studies on their potential for human existence and for human longevity. The reishi is one of the most well-studied foods on the planet. It's very, very well studied. And reishi being reishi mushroom.
Yeah.
So within that, I was exposed to this Eastern world of medicine, which completely took me to next level. So imagine like the story's gone of like obese kid not knowing what's going on to follows some sort of propaganda and marketing towards being healthy and gets skinny, gets malnourished, ends up with a tumour, thinks, oh geez, I've made a right mess here, got to figure this out more, gets deeper into research, does more travel, starts speaking to people, asking questions, all the time really enjoying training, moving away from like intense cardio into some lifting of weights, finding hormone balance, finding more balance in my life, drumming more, and enjoying business. Suddenly get to this point and I'm like surrounded by really open conversation about greatest human potential, like really fascinating.
Okay.
End up at David Wolf conferences, the longevity conferences, a cancer conference in LA, sat there with this massive screen in front of us, like thousands of people. The first thing on there is, if someone's diagnosed with cancer, the first thing they were recommending was to get a second diagnosis, get a second opinion, because, and this was in the States, you may need another opinion on whatever's going on there. And I'm seeing all this information and my mind's just getting opened more and more and more to like, wow, like there's so many other options and ways of finding balance in the human body.
Okay.
And I use that very specifically, finding balance, because that's part of like the Eastern philosophy, is like when the body experiences illness, it's often because the body's out of balance, and the balance might have been tipped through physical environment, through thought, a small percentage maybe through like genetic susceptibility, or genetic susceptibility being linked to those then external factors. But very simply put, like the more I work into and enjoy and surf in balance, everything feels better. My body feels better. My physical performance is better.
What kind of things would you say then that you do to maintain balance? What are your go-to regular things that you do?
A real simple, broad way to answer it is to observe where I'm at extreme.
Okay.
So I can observe that when I was younger, I was at the extreme of cardio. I was like running as much as possible because I thought that's how I was going to get healthy. So at the minute, what I've noticed, because we're going into winter and I've been actually working quite a lot, is I've noticed that I'm inside more than I perhaps should be. So I've observed that I'm out of balance in my exposure, like lack of exposure to the elements and to sunlight. So I'm rebalancing that by consciously going for longer walks and being outside more.
Okay.
Even if it's cold, just getting outside. Personal other things are like more meditation for me. So I've got a lot of energy, I've got a lot of go. That could be thought of as yang energy, like push. At the time when I was in Los Angeles, I was perhaps out of balance in like I hadn't been nourishing or supporting my yin energy, you know, like yin and yang, that kind of funny thing. So I was invited into exploring the nourishment and the balancing of my yin energy through meditation, through silence, through tea meditation, through foods that support yin. And these are very crude like statements, so there's like such subtleties within it, like even saying that let's leave that point there. They're crude statements, but learning that I got this go, but if I kept leaning into yang and go, I was going to eventually drain the internal resources that I'd got, like someone that has a heart attack later on perhaps, or burns out or has a nervous breakdown.
So what specific? So you focus more on the meditation and silence and so on.
Yeah, rebuilding from the inside.
What with the word, like to encourage or nourish that opposing energy.
Absolutely,
okay. Yeah. Where does your diet and your training and those more stereotypically easy things to specifically talk about, like where does that fit into the balance?
Yeah.
Like, so, cause like, it's interesting talking to you. Like we'd spoken a bit before, but obviously like this conversation, I'm learning a lot about what kind of person you are, which is super cool. But then it kind of makes me feel like some of the questions I was going to ask you are just not on the same level.
What do I eat for gains?
Yeah, like, not quite like that, but an easy question for people to want to ask. And like I was saying to you, I've just got back from spending, I guess, the best part of like 11 or 12 days in and around the area of San Francisco and Northern California. And definitely indulged in food in a way that I haven't done so in a very long time. Like I don't regret it. Like oh my god, some of the food I've eaten has been fantastic.
You loved it.
Yeah, it's an outstanding time. But I knew about it when I was there.
Yeah.
I felt sluggish. It affected my mood. It affected the way that I was able to move.
Yeah.
And I've come back, I've had some sports massage therapy with one of our previous guests on the podcast, Seb Kane in Sheffield, and I'm 2% body fat fatter than I was before I went.
Oh, horrendous.
I know, and it's like, that's, and it doesn't make me happy, but at the same time, a worthy sacrifice. So the thing I'm going to do, for example, is refocus on getting in plenty of vegetables, getting in more nutrient-rich foods, doing more home cooking, because I'm always happier when I cook food at home rather than it being bought from anywhere else. Like, full stop, anywhere. Doesn't have to be a fast food or any kind. Just not eating at home is worse than cooking and eating at home. So all those things are a focus, right? But like, compare that to discussions of yin and yang balance, they feel a little bit out of line. But that being said, I think there'll be people listening that may be able to take from their current understanding, because I'm maybe in that like place as well, less from your discussions about yin and yang, more from a discussion that focuses a little bit more on maybe some of those things that you focus on. So you obviously run a supplement company. For quote unquote
enriched superfoods. So okay, let's
but like food and training, for example.
I love that you brought this up, because often I forget how I live and how I experience, even saying these words now, how I experience the human experience is perhaps not the norm.
No, it's not. Well, and I think that's part of what I mean when I say I'm learning about you as a person when I'm speaking, which, like, if no one listens to this podcast, right, this has been cool, this has been fun, right? Because I like that. Like, human interaction for me is one of the most important things on planet Earth. Like, I love it. Like, one of the highlights of my trip was meeting my girlfriend's family. She's got extended family out there.
Yeah, I bet they loved you as well.
They didn't mind me, let's say. But the way that you've discussed things, from the viewpoint that you've got, it is, for want of a better word, and it sounds so cliche, and it's more enlightened. Mine's there, more enlightened. You've experienced more. You had your mind open, like you said. So, yeah, like, if we bring it a little bit more general in terms of what you eat, what you train, and again, for those people that aren't listening, if you can hear the lighter, I'm going to ask you what it is that you're doing now, because if people are watching, they can see. What is this?
What is this? This is called Palo Santo. Right, so you smell it. It's going to smell beautiful.
Okay.
Got the smell?
Yeah.
So, Palo Santo, like holy stick, is a really crude translation.
I knew I'd heard Palo Santo before.
It smells nice. It's refreshing. Some say it's good for like the nervous system. That's calming. I just love it. It's like kind of like a refresher, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially considering we've been sat in the same room now for the best part of an
15
hour.
days.
Meditating on this podcast. Okay, so food, diet, training.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I really love this question, and you're not going to like the answer.
Okay.
Well, you might like the answer. I take responsibility for not putting food advice on people.
Okay.
Because I know that people listen, and I know that some people listen and they'll go, oh, well, if he's strong, fit, healthy, balanced, and has got a six-pack, depending on the weather, if I do that, then I'll get that. No. So the reason I talk into these kind of other broader spectrums of human experience is because I believe that is more service to the other humans listening. And the same with like why I have organically sourced protein shakes with digestive enzymes, why my mushrooms are from the cleanest source, why the chaga's wild, why it's been heavy metal tested, why the reishi is grown on wood, why the teas are all organic, at least sometimes from wild trees, is because I know that I could get cheap crap, excuse my language, stuff and flog it and make way more money. And note to cut the swearing word out.
No, it's cool. Crap is fine.
Crap's fine, okay, good. I know I could make a great business like that. I always used to have this thing in my mind when I started the drumming business, is that if my life was just about making money, I'd probably go into mega yacht sales.
Okay.
Because I spent a bit of time in Monaco and looking at the mega yachts there, and not a huge amount of time, but enough to see it and go, selling mega yachts would make loads of money.
Okay.
Right? I kind of take responsibility for the stuff that comes out of my mouth as much as possible when I can be conscious of it. So what I do isn't necessarily useful for other human beings, because if someone's digestion's wrecked and then some raw foodist is preaching raw food forever, then that person that might be susceptible because they're feeling sick and they like need some sort of help starts eating more raw food. That raw food may be the worst thing for their digestive system, and a little bit of soup, a mineral rich soup, might be the easiest for them to digest.
Well, an easy question though from that is, like, in your experience, what knowledge, if any, do you have on how people can improve their digestive system?
Awesome, really good one, yeah. Firstly, like noticing if their digestion is in a good shape or not by looking at their poo.
Well, like, one thing I've noticed as I've gotten older, right, I used to really enjoy an extra hot Nando's.
Okay.
But now, anything too spicy and the next day is a bad day for me.
Right.
My digestive system cannot handle. I joke like I've got an old man's stomach.
Yeah.
Like, I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just know that if I get a recipe from HelloFresh or from Gusto or from a recipe book or wherever it is, if it says add chili flakes, I don't add the damn chili flakes.
Right.
Like, that's just where I have to go with it. So I don't know why that is. I mean, I've been told a reason why.
Yeah. Let's go levels into that.
Yeah.
So the way I think about my digestive system is the way I think about my training and my emotional balance, is that it can progress and get better. Versus someone has old man's digestion.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
My digestive system is getting better and better and better. The more
Okay.
aware I am, the more I tune into certain foods that do or do not trigger it at certain times, certain seasons.
Okay.
So perhaps in winter, less salad makes sense just logically, because it's, I don't know, we or maybe it's through habit that we've just been eating like soups and broths and stews and that kind of thing in winter because parents did it, and now the brain is like, oh, that's just what we eat. Why? Well, those foods might be around more, like root vegetables, grounding, earthy vegetables are just more available, so we do that. In like Eastern medicine, like in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, they're looking at the effect of the food on the body and the digestive system. So if the weather outside is cooler, the human might be cooler. The foods that they're eating, when linked to the seasons, kind of seasonal eating, it leans more into warming foods, not raw vegetables, not salads.
Yeah.
That's not 1 and 0, because we like 1 and 0, like as in binary.
We like certainty versus uncertainty, don't we? Do you know what I mean? So people would much rather be completely of the opinion that they're right, even if they're wrong, generally speaking, than to have self-awareness and to question their own beliefs. Which I think, it's my intention on these podcasts is not, particularly at this point in time, to go into too much that's contentious, but all you've got to do is look at the Brexit thing, President Trump, documentaries that come out. People seem to like divisive 1 and 0 conversations, don't they? I don't know. I don't. It's difficult to sometimes understand why.
Maybe it's a survival thing.
Tony Robbins said that the 6 basic human needs: certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, contribution, and
contribution is a good one to remember.
Growth. Like, if you think about certainty versus uncertainty, people like certainty.
Yeah.
And we seem to gravitate towards people that like to be certain in their statements. Like, I quite like someone who I talk to who can say, oh, I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I imagine if you're listening to a podcast looking for knowledge and someone goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you want someone to answer your questions for you. Do you know what I mean? But it's better to have someone that will say, I don't know, rather than...
And also, I think you perhaps agree with this, is them being okay with the uncertainty. Not, I don't know, I need to, oh my God, and the stress. No, that's totally cool, I just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a really powerful and useful human trait, is being okay with uncertainty.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really like thinking into that and feeling and working into that. It's like, I don't know, and I'm okay not knowing whatever that thing is. I don't know if my bank account's empty right now or it's full. Or if someone just put in £10 million, or someone just took out that and now I'm going to get a fine. I have no idea. But I'm all right with that. Like, I don't know if my car's still outside. It doesn't matter either way. I'll figure it out. Yeah. And that can be frustrating. Like you kind of said there, it can be frustrating for some people because they want to either know or they want to be in the dramatic experience of it because of the hormonal payoff of that experience. But what kind of linking into all these questions you're asking me, I've come to experience and learn is the greater balance that I can find in my eating, the greater connection I can have with that, in my physical activity, in everything, the greater balance that I find, the easier life is. And I still get to enjoy the pleasures, but I also enjoy the pain, but I'm not attached to either.
Okay.
It's all right. Either one is all right. And it's almost like we as humans kind of need to get to that place. Otherwise, there's just ups and downs of drama forever.
Yeah, one of our previous guests we had on, Peter Sage, would talk about the river of life. The idea that if you think about, let's use the River Thames as an example, it goes from A to B, but it doesn't go from A to B in a straight line. Like sometimes it goes completely back on itself. And it's trusting that those journeys where it goes back on itself are really just part of the journey to propel you forward. But and I think the other thing he talks about is at some point in all of his learning and studies and his teachings, and is not attaching too much a level of importance to what it is, which is, I think, essentially what you were saying.
Yeah, because you never know, something really magnificent may come out of the not being attached to the actual outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do your products look like then?
So
Rich, what have you got going on at Enrich Superfoods?
So there's a few different in the protein range. One part of the range is the organic hemp and pea protein, digestive enzymes. Then there's a berry, a chocolate, and a plain in that. The digestive enzymes are very specific and important, I believe, in protein shakes. Really supports like digestion
versus the ones that you take that you just fart and smell horrible and feel bloated and you don't process half of what it is that's in the protein anyway, right?
Right, amazing. Which is perfectly said.
Yeah, because I've experienced it.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
And your missus knows.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all messages. They're all messages. The bloating, the smell of the fart, the skin change, the spots. They're all messages. Rather than getting caught up in, there's a mini tangent. Rather than getting caught up of that guy stinks, or that the skin thing, or the whatever it is, or even like obesity, they're just messages. The body's just saying, "Hey, whoa, hang on, find your balance, please."
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's someone that consumes way too much alcohol regularly for a long period of time may end up with some sort of red face or symptoms of that. It's just a message. It's like, hey, whoa, too much, step back, fine, like lean the other way a little bit, please.
Yeah.
So the proteins, and then the other part of the range, the quinoa and pea protein, again with digestive enzymes, some maca in there, all specifically put in there for a purpose. And I've got 4 or 5 new flavours coming out. Some have got the medicinal mushrooms in there. One has the lion's mane mushroom for brain function, and then one of the chocolate ones is going to have reishi in there.
And you do the mushroom products as separate products as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I kind of mentioned, I've sourced the cleanest, most potent, where possible, dual extract, meaning both the alcohol and water-soluble compounds within the mushroom. Lion's mane, chaga, reishi, turkey tail, which is coming up very soon, agaricus, what else have I got coming? Maitake. And I've also just sourced the most amazing ceremonial matcha, which I've called samurai matcha.
That's a cool name.
Right? Because I feel like a samurai when I drink it.
Okay.
Centered and strong and focused. Okay. And I've been working with a really amazing designer who I want to give a shout out to, Ben Slade. Really, really cool dude, amazing designs for the graphics, like really good guy. Rye, I think his company's called.
Okay.
And then also like a range of different teas that change, because sometimes I can get more of one or more of the other. Standards are a really nice, clean, organic shopuer, which is the fermented version of this shumpuer that we're drinking. Much darker, more warming, grounding, earthy drink, whereas this is kind of the lighter, more uplifting. So shopuer being good, like thinking seasonally, when it's cooler, like going into winter, because it has that kind of warming sensation in the body. which is kind of possibly weird to hear. Like, it's hot, so it's warming. Well, if you drink ginger root, for example, in a warm tea, yes, it's physically warming, and the properties, like thinking traditionally, most people can relate to the sentence ginger and digestion. Like, that kind of goes in there for whatever reason. Maybe our grandparents, maybe down the line. And that's because ginger may have a warming effect on the digestive system. Again, very crude statements, medicinally speaking. There's caveats within it, like someone perhaps suffering from too much heat, like night sweats, acid reflux, may have like a really bad reaction to drinking more ginger, even though it's their digestive system that needs support.
Okay.
And it's so fascinating to think about that. It's like, generally speaking, ginger may support most people's digestion, right? Again, very crude statement. But there'll be some people in there that have digestive things going on that ginger may be the worst thing for them because it's too heating.
Okay.
So within the teas, the sheng pu'er that we drank here, this green cooling in the body, although it's physically hot, the energy of it is cooling.
Okay.
Right?
It's
little intricacies.
Yeah. I get what you mean now more about when you said that some statements were crude statements, so they're too broad.
Ah, yes, crude being not disgusting.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, conscious of, there's so much that you've discussed with me today, which I think you could easily go into significantly more.
Yeah.
What I tend to have done with the podcast so far with people is sort of wrap things up with 3 questions.
Okay.
Funnily enough, I'm going to be quite interested to hear how you answer this first one. Basically, if we think about, we are the Wellness Academy podcast, and wellness is, you could argue that wellness, for example, is a crude word, because it's a broad word, right?
Yeah.
It's not specific.
I love how you picked up that word, because I've just gone,
It's like an umbrella word, right? It's this huge umbrella, wellness, that includes anything and everything, to a point that I've got another close friend that's looking to come on the podcast who is an outstanding businessman, doing fantastically well, really great at personal development and being a coach and a leader and a supporter and a mentor and so on. But he was like, I'm not sure if what I do fits into wellness. And I had to sort of say to him, no, man, of course it does. Wellness is anything and everything if we're taking care of the human body, the human experience, right? So from a physical perspective, I would say to somebody, is there a tactic, or a routine that you do on a regular basis that you value highly for maintaining physical wellness? Does anything come to mind? It can be something you've already said, it can be something different we might not have touched on so far. What do you think?
Without thinking too much, I'll just say it out. It's finding my physical balance through my actions, right? And my thoughts. So, for example, I may have overtrained, I may have undertrained. I would find whatever needs to be done there. I may have spent too much time outside, not enough time outside. Too much time with humans, not enough time on my own meditating. So, too much being for me. There is no real broad statement of too much. So it's finding balance, whether it's physical or emotional, and knowing how that affects the physical and everything that we're experiencing on this planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having some self-awareness is a great start, which I think is probably something that a lot of people struggle with. I know it used to be something that I struggled with. Okay. Yeah,
so really simply put, is finding balance and then applying that in all areas.
Okay. So same question, mental health is a massive topic in 2019, like more so than it ever has been. I don't think that's because mental health is something that people struggle with more necessarily in 2019. I just like to think that it's because more people are willing to talk about it in 2019. If you think about mental wellness, is there anything that you do on a regular basis to stay balanced mentally?
Yeah, I meditate and I play drums and physical activity. So I feel good when I train, I feel good when I do something physical, like the walking stuff. I believe that's good for me as well. My belief in that is part of the game. The meditation, staying still, having done Vipassana, this silent retreats, and practicing that meditation. Observing my mind being noisy, bringing it back to the breath. Observing it, finding balance again each time. So it's the mental health thing again is very individual. Someone might benefit mentally from more movement or less movement, whatever it is for them out of there. My own personal thing is very simply put, mindfulness. And that could be like the way I drink a cup of tea is like feeling the cup. The way I speak with someone is like, as well as being conscious of the content, is being conscious of the experience they're having as well. Same with clients, with the products, everything, being more mindful. Yeah, that's a really easy way of doing it.
Cool. And then last one really is just overall wellness. So like, I think about that in a context of a stereotypical response to physical wellness could be, I value my training, to mental wellness, I value my meditation, to overall wellness, people remembering that, you know, there'll be people listening that work is the current priority. So maybe family is being sacrificed, maybe physical health is being sacrificed. They might need to think about their overall wellness. But is there anything that you feel like you've left out, or that you wanted to touch on, or you wanted to reiterate that keeps you, and I think I've been using the word wellness because we are Wellness Academy, but I feel like the better context is the word balance with you, which is cool.
Yeah.
Overall, is there anything else you do to stay balanced?
Being aware that everything is connected and that everything affects everything. So I'm aware that if I'm in a funk over something, that's not isolated from other stuff. That's not isolated from my digestion. That, flip it round, how I'm feeling and how I'm training and how all those things, they're affecting it, they're all connected. So how everything may affect everything else, and it is connected. And I can do that for my own individual experience, and I can do that with other humans. Like, this conversation doesn't stop here. For you, there'll be some words that have gone, oh, yeah. And for me as well, there'll be some things that have gone, oh, I could...
Yeah, definitely.
Go to the gym. As I walk around the gym, am I training aggressively and like leaving stuff everywhere? That affects people. Or am I like conscious of like putting the weights back, even tidying other people's weights and taking pleasure in that? That kind of thing.
I think one of the things that you talk about, taking something away, my back's bothered me out in San Francisco more than it has done in a very long time. But I also said to you during this conversation, I've eaten worse out in San Francisco than I have in a very long time. Might be something to that, eh?
Yeah.
So before we go then, Rich, and wrap this up, you mentioned where you are with the drumming. One more time, the website for that.
Yeah, drummingteambuilding.co.uk.
And then Enrich Superfoods. Where can people find out more about your products, what you offer, what they can buy, what they can try, what the benefits are? Where do people look?
Yeah, enrichedsuperfoods.com, and that's ENRICHD. There's no E at the end there. It's kind of the little thing where you saw that.
Cool.
And there's probably a link down here as well anyway.
We'll sort something out with that, yeah.
Nice one.
All right.
Top man.
Thank you very much for being here, Rich.
Thank you, sir.
This is Dan Ball from Wellness Academy. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. You'll find a link on the episode notes. Just tap or swipe over the cover art. You'll also see some offers from our sponsor, Lichfield Apart Hotel. Find them at lichfieldaparthotel.com, and we hope you'll support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe. Another way to support us is to answer a short survey at yourwellnessacademy.co.uk/survey and tell us what wellness topics you'd like to hear about. I'm your host, Dan Ball. Our producer is Scott Towns, created by our executive producer, Ben Heathcote, for Wellness Academy.